This video correlates with Chapter 8, Public Policies Affecting Clinical Practice. This is not always a fun thing for people to talk about public policy. However, we do need to remind ourselves that good policy is necessary for addressing the needs and the rights of individuals with disabilities. So even though it might not be the thing we want to talk about or unfortunately be affected by, it is something that in our profession we need to deal with. Policies change frequently, as you'll find as we go through today. They change frequently, and you need to be knowledgeable about those changes. So however you can set up when you are a clinician to be cognizant of those changes and to stay up to date on those changes, it's very important that you do that and that you stay up to date with those changes. So whether it's through ASHA and the national organization, whether it's through your state organization or some other type of continuing education, please be up to date on those changes. And I always like to stress that many good things, sometimes we stress too much about public policy and how it hurts, or Medicare caps and those types of things. But I do want to stress that one of the good things that came out of public policy was the early hearing detection and intervention that occurs, and that was authorized to do that. So when you think about all the things that maybe don't go right with public policy, please do remember that good things do come from that, and that is a great example of that. We talked about how public policy changes, and this first one is a great example. The textbook addresses No Child Left Behind, or NCLB, which is now out of date. It now has a new name, ESSA, Every Student Succeed Act. So that's just a good example of knowing that things change. And with name changes come changes in regulation, so we need to stay up to date on that. But regardless of the name, for school clinicians, whether it was NCLB or ESSA, one of the things that will always be there is the accountability piece. And so you need to be accountable for the things you do with students in public education. Certainly IDEA is first and foremost with school clinicians. You need to know about that. We need to know that IDEA provides for free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. And so those are critical for you to remember, as well as there needs to be an impact on the general curriculum progression or the general development of the infant, toddler, or preschoolers. So remember that there needs to be an impact. So in order for them to receive services, there needs to be an impact in either the general curriculum and how they progress through that general curriculum, or for those below age 5, they need to have some sort of impact on their development and how that will develop. You also need to keep in mind Section 504. 504s are in both schools and medical settings, so please be aware of Section 504, and that Section 504 has changed. It encompasses a lot of definitions in terms of major life activities that now include a lot of things. It used to be more a physical aspect or a medical aspect. It is now encompasses many life activities such as thinking, communicating, listening, reading, all those things. The other thing you have to remember about 504 is it needs to be that condition needs to substantially limit what that individual can do. So need to do some research on those if you're involved in that. Then we look at Medicare and Medicaid, those and insurance companies, managed care. Those are things that you will see in the hospital or rehab settings. Medicaid will also be present in the schools in some situations, but you do need to know about those regulations. You need to know about caps on services. You need to know about documenting progress. You need to know about diagnostic codes. All those things are extremely important to know, and those change with the Affordable Care Act and Medicare and Medicaid. all those things change. So it just is really important that we keep up on those, whether we're in the school setting or the medical setting or both. We need to keep up on the changes that occur in public policy. And I think another thing that's important is their advocacy. You really need to have responsibility. You have a responsibility for advocating for people with disabilities, whether they're adults or children. Clients with disabilities, you need to advocate for those. And you can do that through public policy. You can do that through local, state, and national levels, through the organizations. Sharing of information. I have found that when you're dealing with public policy, the best thing to do is to give great examples, real life examples, real life stories that those policymakers can connect with.